Good evening and welcome to Space Pro, your exclusive workshop on spatial planning. The workshop is based on 5 themes across 5 days. Today, we focus on living room, brought to you by our own master speakers, architect BEHZAD KHARAS and architect OJAS CHAUDHARI. We thank our title sponsors Blum and our associate sponsors Jung and Lingel, renowned German organizations with state-of-the-art technology to add to the glamour and functionality to your living space. Graduating as a promising student from Risby College of Architecture, our first speaker for the very first workshop is architect BEHZAD KHARAS, CMD, the B&K Group, Mumbai. The secret of BEHZAD's success is the value he places on honesty, integrity, perseverance, and passion for the work he undertakes.
Hi guys, my name is BEHZAD. I run a company called the B&K Group. We're a team of 40 designers and architects. We basically do high-end residential and hospitality spaces. Today, I want to take this opportunity to thank iDAC for organizing this masterclass. Along with me, presenting here today is Director of Design at the B&K Group, Hitisha. Hitisha is basically the person who leads design now at the B&K Group, and is the person who basically looks into each and every aspect of design for any particular project. Today, what we've done is, for this masterclass, we've chosen a project that we're currently building out in a town called Nasik, which is about 180 kilometers from Mumbai. The client wanted to build a villa, which also houses his office, and it's a 3-story villa done on a very modern, contemporary style of design. And today we're going to showcase the entrance lobby and the living room of this particular project, and the design process, and the amount of effort that goes into detailing even a small space like the entrance lobby. So, Hitisha, would you please take this forward and explain to the audience how things happen here at the B&K Group?
Sure. Thanks, BEHZAD, and thank you, iDAC, for this opportunity. opportunity to all of us. What I will share, as correctly said by BEHZAD, is we will share a project that we are working on, and we will just run by basically how background in our office, the entire system or the entire process of the design, how we put our entire team towards it and how we work for it. We will just share the process for all of us to know how this works for us. So guys, at BNK, we follow our design process in categorically three parts: concept stage, design development, and the final stage. And our main concern of a project obviously starts with the client needs, and it revolves around it. From the client needs, it goes to design process, concepts, 3D views, material selection, the final GFC, and the execution and delivery of the project. At BNK, we do have a complete different design team and a project managing team, which takes care of both the individual processes in a very well coordinated working manner. From there, we just explain you the entire process, how it works. So we'll just go one by one in each process. When it's the concept stage, in a concept stage, we generally divide it with three parts. There is a site survey that happens, and we take the client's briefs and requirements. And then from there, we start with the basic zoning and planning of the project. From an understanding of the slide that we just wanted to share here, how there is a slide site survey that happens. We get the entire survey done. We prepare the CAD drawings for it. And then we start developing from the brief how the client has given us the brief and how we want to give the zoning and planning for the same. So this is how we take this entire stage, the concept stage, then to the client briefing, and then we reach to the zoning. This, while we are doing, there is a lot of to and fro that happens, obviously, with the client, where we are discussing, we are sampling out, there is a lot of sketching that happens. From that, once the overall zoning and planning is kind of freezed, we convert them into AutoCAD drawings for a better way of working and understanding for the clients and the people at site to get proper details for them to work on. When it goes from the concept stage, after all the approvals, we start the design development stage, where we primarily first create the 2D drawings in AutoCAD. From that, we develop the conceptual 3D in either 3D Max or SketchUp, or from V-Ray we do the renderings. That is how we develop our 3Ds for giving the glimpse to the client that what are we talking for them to really understand well, because not all the clients can understand from the 2D a very well aspect of how the design is going to really come out. A 3D definitely gives them a very good understanding of how the final product is going to look. With the material and finishing selections, we apply them for them to even get further a better idea that it's not just a box that we create, we apply what we are thinking later on also as the material which will come to their project to be used. And then there is an estimation and VOQ that our project management team does. When again we do the design development, we go through a lot of clarity in giving them drawings that just to start off with, like a living room, how many seatings is required, what number of people they expect to gather there, what kind of seating are they looking for, formal, informal, whether they want television as application in the TV, projector screens, etc. All that is taken care when we are doing this kind of a design development. That time we put it on the paper to explain it to them in a CAD, and from there we take it further. After that, when there is also a very important factor that we keep in mind when we are doing these drawings and details, because when such a building where we have given a layout of a complete glass showing from all the three sides, windows become a very important factor, which also we consider while we are doing our material selections and our finishes selections, that what kind of windows do we want to use, what kind of finishes we want, and all the window brands, they give us all these options available for us to select from, which really helps to create the design in much better way from what our imaginations are. So in the primarily 3D views, when we share with the client, we give them a rough render, which is more like just to get an understanding of the place, of the volume, of the scale, of how it is going to come before all the material application, for them to just get a gist of, okay, this is how the place is going to look. With these kind of large windows, this is the kind of natural light, this is the kind of vision from outside, what you're going to have. And all this is cleared with them with this preliminary 3D views that we share. When we do our material selections, that helps us to clear with the client that there is a budget, always a constraint which the client has always given us to. And so to make a place look wow factor within that budget, the material selection is a most important factor, because depending on that material selection is where the cost factor comes into place. So that is what we do in a very thorough detail, because once that is done, that is only after when the estimation and BOQ comes out correctly for the client to get a clarity of how much is he going to really spend. So we share with them, different kind of material boards to just show them how and what are we using to make them understand, touch and feel the materials. Also, that gives them a proper understanding rather than just the 3D, because when they've touched the material or when they feel the material, when they see the material, that also gives them a 100% clarity of what is being used. While we are designing these things, we also keep in mind a very important factor of automation for the place, because when this kind of a large area is done, a very important factor which plays is the lighting, the mood setting, which happens with the automation that when we create. The switchboards, which is also a very important factor, because when you design a beautiful home and suddenly if you see some ugly looking boxes, it's never going to look and blend with our design. So when we select these boxes and when we select the switch plates, there is a lot of range available now today in the market for all different selections, like from the finishes that we want to match with our look, which we want to do it. It just helps and eases out our process, because they don't stand out excluding from our design, but now they very well blend with our design. And automation for these kind of areas for high-end residences is very important, which also makes the client's life a little more easier. When everything is on automation, it just helps better. There is also an aspect that really is important, is the hardware selection whenever we are doing a detail, because when we have units where we want something to flush well, when we want that something to just come out on one push, when we want something to just sit into a small zone, the hardware selection is really important, which helps us, because when we give right hardware, or when the selection of the hardware is from a brand which is really doing good, it sorts a lot of issues which the client later on faces, because in long run, a very good hardware is important to be used. So these are the things that we definitely keep in mind while we are designing and developing our design, because lighting, automation, hardware, our window systems, our flooring materials, our fabrics, all of this combinedly makes the design come out as the right factor that is needed. So
I'd like to just butt in here. When you're doing automation, most people ask us this question: is automation really necessary? My answer to them is very simple: is when you're doing bungalow schemes or you're having your own large villa, automation becomes a necessity and not a luxury. And in an apartment, if it's a small scale apartment, then automation is not a necessity, it becomes a luxury. When we're designing projects like these, automation becomes a very strong necessity for ease of operation. For example, if the lady of the house is sitting somewhere in the dining area and her son has just gone to school and she wants to switch off the lights of his bedroom, that's possible without her even shifting 2 steps. Same ways, if she's sitting in the living room and she wants to shut off the lights of the dining room, that's possible. You don't have to keep moving around here and there and trying to figure out which switch to press to close those particular lights. So for large-scale projects, automation is definitely a necessity. Choosing the right kind of glass, choosing the right kind of window system, depending upon the intensity of the rain and the wind, are very strong considerations which we take into consideration when we're designing such kind of spaces. Hardware, obviously, when you're doing projects which are also, let's say, distant, or even for that matter, any project, the life cycle of hardware is the most important thing based on which we decide on something. I think a brand like Blum basically is something which we trust blindly because not only of its quality but also the warranty that they offer and the life cycle of usage of a particular, let's say, channel or hinge is phenomenal. Back to you, Hitisha.
Yeah, I totally agree what you said about the automation, BEHZAD, because in these large size of houses, the mood, the setup, everything is really important. And that also adds a lot to do with the automation because many times we show such wow factors and sometimes client complains that in evening it is not looking like that because they have not set up the light like that. But with the automation, it is just one switch touch and it is an evening mode set for them and it's all sorted. So it's definitely a very important factor. Moving from that, we'll just go to our final stage of how we generally combine all of these stages that we have worked for, looked forward to, made it easy for the client to understand. We just give a complete 3D detailed view with the materials because whatever we have first shown as 3D as a rough render, and then after all the materials that we selected, we finally put it all together for them to get the clear picture of what at the end the house is going to look like. So that is how we just give them a complete feeling. Then where the client is 100% clear that, okay, fine, this is the end product and this is how my house is going to look. And they are then not so concerned because this just gives them a total view of how their house is going to be. So this is what all we do for our clients. And finally, after all these processes, we get into the GFC drawings, which is more important for the construction parts, for the contractors to work, for them to understand and how to make the house really as we have planned it to be. So our GFC drawings goes out in a very, very detailed manner where we give everything almost to the T. So a construction is done by the most ease as possible. And that is how we generally like work. So finally, once we are done with all the materials and all the selection and the 3D view is detailed out and given to the client for their complete satisfaction, that's when we really start working on all the detailed drawings that is required for the site as a construction part because at BNK we really work on a very categorically detailed drawings set for any construction to go completely without any problem where like a contractor doesn't really have to question us that what do I really have to do next. Our drawings, our details say everything to the T. And that's what our belief is that our drawings need to have that really good standard and we give it out in that detailed way. So our GFC drawings combine of every possible details that is required for a site, whether it is the space layout, RCP layout, plumbing, the electrical services, lighting, everything. So this is how at the glimpse right now we can just share one small area that we could take out of the entire bungalow project that we are doing for a client in Nasik. This is just a glimpse of how at BNK we work and how at BNK for us it's really important that from client satisfaction to the needs of the client and to our satisfaction of our design, the final product, how it should be. This completes the entire design team and our project team, which works towards it. Looking forward to our 3D should be our end product at when the site is completed, and the client should have that smile when he sees everything finished and feel at home.
Great.
So, BEHZAD, would you add anything?
Yes. I think what's most important for any designer to understand is that you follow function first, and then you follow the form. It's most critical to ensure when you're doing residences that you understand the client's requirement to the T, and then ensure that it's detailed into the drawing, it is signed off by the client, that he knows what he's going to get. And then obviously the 3Ds and the larger than life imaging that happens is just a supplementary part of this entire process. You can have fantastic renderings, and if you have not met his personal requirements, the rendering has no value. It's unfortunate that most cases in our country we follow just the rendering and don't look into the details, but it's actually where the details need to be looked into first and then the rendering. So here at the BNK group, we focus more on the detail, and automatically everything else just falls in place. So that's a learning that I would leave, and I hope that everybody is doing well and staying safe, and definitely ensuring that you're wearing your mask and keeping well. Thank you once again to Team iDAC for organizing this masterclass, and thank you to all the sponsors, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, iDAC.
My name is Mario. I am representing a German company called Lingel Windows. We are here in India since the year 2006. What I believe what makes us some kind of special, that we are providing all the fenestration products under one roof. We are doing UPVC windows, all kind of UPVC windows available. We are doing aluminium windows, thermal and non-thermal broken windows. And we do have a special vertical where we are importing from our German plant real timber window or wood aluminium windows for special high-end projects. We do provide roller shutters, we do provide Venetian blinds, we do provide even conservatories, glass houses, everything related to fenestration, skylights, glazing, mosquito protection, energy saving clauses, security clauses, special demands on security hardwares. Everything under one roof. Lingel is always, I would say, a right partner to contact. And being here since almost 15 years in the country, thousands of homes and thousands of customers could enjoy the Lingel experience. And we are really thankful and happy for our wide range of customers. And most of them are repeated customers, since they have the trust in us, and we could fulfill whatever expectation customers are looking. It would be our pleasure to welcome you as a new customer to our company. It would be my real pleasure to introduce and to welcome you personally to our company. The living room is the signature of your house. Whoever steps in is going to see first your living area. Confirm, make it as bright as possible. Play with the natural daylight, get as max as possible light in, but considering that we are here in India, block as maximum heat you can with an indirect lighting, with daylights, or that we have balcony who are covering the outside so that overall light is coming in, but heat is not coming in. In terms of the design, you have to see how much space you have. When we have limited space, of course, sliding is a perfect option, because I don't block my space on the outside, I don't block my space on the inside. But in sliding, we know that we have at least 50% or 1/3 depends on the design what you are choosing, permanently blocked. In case you have the space, go for a slide and fold option where we do have almost 100% of the opening accessible. And they are also important, the moment you really want to use your balcony, think about an insect protection mosquito mesh, which can be either a sliding one, which can be an retractable one and so-called zigzag mesh, or in terms of windows, which can be in roller mesh or in shatter mesh. Very important to get the fresh air in, the breeze in, or in case you are staying somewhere in a dusty environment where you say, I'm not going to open my windows in my area at all, don't go for the mesh. Go for large glazing, little bit of opening so that you get access to your balcony, and at the same time you are getting maximum light in to play that your room is looking extremely bright. The dining area attached to the living area, very important again, have natural daylight, less openings because the tables are around, you want to serve the food, you want to sit there, you want to watch out. Usually you don't want to step out because again, when it is open and when you are having your lunch or your dinner or your breakfast, you don't want to have the unwanted insects of coming in. Make this area, maybe when you have the chance of in a villa, make it double height in your bungalow so that the light is flooding from the top, or make a normal glazing around so that you have the view that you feel that you are part of the nature, but at the same time, the heat as well as the noise as well as mosquitoes are not coming in. For these areas, we are proposing to make it as much as possible fixed so that you can enjoy your food inside, have to look outside, but not being disturbed from unwanted guests reaching to your food.
Our next master speaker, architect OJAS Chaudhari of Studio Tab, is a cycling enthusiast, driven by the motivation to create positive change in the built environment and change in the common perception of design, much of which he is going to highlight through his eccentric design of a living room.
So hi everyone, this is OJAS from Studio Tab. Thank you iDAC for organizing this spaces design. And so basically it's quite important to understand how a space or a design is generated. It's not the final outcome which is important, it's how the steps to each and every design element was discussed, or what was the thought behind that, how the client had a response to it. So it's quite important to have a understanding why a certain design was developed in a way. So it's a really nice initiative by iDAC to discuss all the pieces which are important in the living house basically, and living room, which is one of the most important space, if you can say, because that is where the guest or anyone will be seeing your house. So in a way, it's like you're showcasing your house to the world that way. So yeah, that's really nice. I think so we can straight run through the presentation which we had done, the basics of the theory of how a design works that way for a living room in that case. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So living room actually is quite important part of the house, if you want to say, because every person who is going to be coming to your house will be first coming to your living room. So that way it becomes not a personal space, but a space which represents you, of how you are as a, in terms of your character, in terms of your feel, your age, all these things comes into play in that case. So let's run through. Yeah. So basically a living room is actually representation of people who are staying over there. And it also talks about their age. Are they young people who are just married and they're exploring the life and they want to have the similar thing in their interiors, or basically you are already into, basically you're seeing the world and now you know what are the best things you want in the house that way. So exploring, non-exploring, all those things are actually, that makes the house unique actually, because that is your own way of how you want to see other people looking at your house. That represents you in a way. It's a very fine balance if you'll see, because statement to others should not become that you're making a statement of how much I'm spending in a house. It's not about that. Finally, a house has to be a home. There's a fine balance which needs to be maintained. Like the house has to, obviously, like you are showcasing it to people, but then finally it is your home. You should be feel happy to come after your work or anything. You should be very much pleased to come home every day. You should be looking forward to go to your home, and that becomes where it is very important. It should not be too very opulent for everyone else to be pleased, but first you should be very happy to come back home that way. So house to home is a very important part which everyone needs to take care of. And what do you like the urban jungle? Like nowadays everyone mostly are staying in cities where it's huge constructions are happening. There's huge amount of buildings, top high rises are happening. So it's like becoming a kind of an urban jungle. So it's like one type of style which is happening when you see a city. Coming to your home is where you break away from all these things. A lot of people who work in corporate, their lifestyle, their traveling time, their things of seeing a city, and then you coming home. So that is where you break away from that urban jungle which is happening in the city in a way. So home is not only a showcase, it's like your own space, your own feel good factor which you need. So what are those things which makes that space important? Are the maybe the colors which we'll be using in that space, the materials, the color combinations, the materials, the touch and feel of each and everything. That is what makes it personal for you. Like if you are into colors and all that, so accordingly the pastel shades or monochromatic shades, a pop of color in a sofa or a pop of color in upholstery or in the flooring, that is all personal things which comes out to make it your own space that way. Also, living rooms are very important in terms of having natural light inside, the warmth, the peace. So basically, you cannot have a house which is in a way completely shut from all sides and everything. So basically, you need that natural light coming in to have that play of light. So basically, that space in the day is quite different as compared to evening, as compared to the night. So it evolves with the time, and that is what you need. You don't need a space which is just stagnant. You go in the day, in the evening, or in the night. Basically, if you're reading something, if you're having your morning tea with your newspaper, there are certain ways which you will obviously make your own spaces. Like you will have a space where you will be having your morning tea and the newspaper. That is becomes your morning space. Maybe in the evening you will be sitting in front of your TV, or maybe with your family discussing things. So again, a space gets divided into different zones inside the living room itself, and natural light will play a very important role with that, because that will create that warmth in that space for you. Another thing which is very important is living room nowadays in the city. Living rooms are in a way part of the extension of your dining and the kitchen also. Nowadays, a lot of kitchens, what we generally come across or we design, are open kitchen, and there's a separate service kitchen inside too. So the thing is, your living room is also extended part of your dining, of your kitchen. So weaving them all together also becomes very important. You can't just design one space and then go to the second space and then third space. It all comes together that way. And maybe one of the important part is how unique is your house. It's obviously you need to have that personal feel to your house to make it yourself. But maybe if you want to, a lot of people will be traveling down and visiting your house that way. This example we generally give to all our people who start working in our office is maybe if you have done an esky in your college days. So basically it's just a 1 day or 2 day kind of a design esky which is there. So in the span of 2 days, you have to design one certain element of thing. Now in that, what happens is out of batch of 40 or 60, half of the people will have something which is similar to each other. Then there will be might around 10 people who will have something stand out or something very unique or something very different. And there will be a couple of people who have very random ideas, very impromptu ideas kind of thing. So what happens? So that SK is over now. Now we talk about after a month or two, we go back to that thing and we start discussing what do you remember from that SK after 2 months? So there's a huge chunk of lot of that half which was similar to the design, which was similar to each other, just fades out in your mind. But there are few elements which will be stuck in your in your mind even after 2 months. So that certain element which will stand out, which will catch your mind, and it will remain with you. So a unique element in a house or a living room is quite important that way. Like a lot of people will be visiting your place and they will be visiting other places also. But what makes it different from the other places, or what they will remember even after few months or a year, that particular thing which they had seen in your house. So it has to have that personal touch as well as that unique element, which is maybe making it different from what everyone else is having that way. So that is the elements what we generally try to take ahead in our living room spaces when we will start designing. It's also depending on how much. So basically, we always have a questionnaire to our client where we discuss with them, we understand their family, their hobbies, their liking, disliking, and accordingly we'll start with that. So what I will do is I will just run through few of our projects which we had done and what the client had in their mind or what was their background. You'll see how it got transformed into each and every living room. So there are different living rooms, there are different clients, there are different designs altogether. So just run through the designs once. Okay, so this is a residential what we have done in Pune. We have termed them as the homecoming. So generally we put names to all our projects. So now this, you can see it's a very vibrant kind of a house. So we will just run through the photos once and we'll go to them. Yeah. So the client which was there, so basically they were staying out of India for almost 10 years. And they're a very young family, young kids, like 4 years and 7 years. They're coming back to their hometown to Pune after 10 years. The kids have been born in Singapore and they're coming now to India. So the transition for the family who is traveling out from a different country to India has to be quite seamless. At the same time, you are coming back to your own roots. So they have taken this decision because they want to come back to India. They want to have that kind of a Indian proudness to themselves. So if you have certain elements which they want to be feel proud about, is about all the local craftsmanship what we have, the local materials what we use. So that becomes very important for us. And Pune that way is quite rich in terms of its heritage, in terms of the materials and the colors, or the other things which are there in their saris, their tradition of Ganpati and all those things. So you can just see what we had tried to do is we had tried to take those elements and try to blend it in the modern house out here. So you can see this, there are the sari patterns which are there, the Paithani saris that we have taken and we tried to create a chair out of that. There's a bright sofa color out there. So it's like a touch of local with a modern intervention into it. So basically it's not a very, like they have to also adjust to the lifestyle which is gonna get changed. So it's like a couple of things taken into each other and getting designed together. So that's another view. So basically the use of lime plaster, the use of brass, the use of Paithani saris, the use of the solid wood make that space them basically as a client who wants to come back to their roots. Okay. So that was about the homecoming. Now, this is a residence in Mumbai, House of Lingel. So again, now this is again a young family, again kids of around 2 years, 3 years. They wanted something which is not very perfect. They wanted the kid to explore over there. They wanted to have the material age, have that color coming out of those things where the kids also play and enjoy those spaces together. So you'll see a lot of pop-up colors inside this. So yeah. So basically, it's about celebrating the imperfection which is there, using materials which are very true to its nature, the micro concrete, the heritage tiles, IPS flooring, what we are using. Then there are a lot of elements which we have taken which are very natural and no artificial. So basically, with time, it will age. The kids will explore. Obviously, they will have uh, overall space design and everything in that. So, and since they are young kids, they don't, something is not static. It's basically there are things which are moving around. They can switch things here and there. The bedroom, the bedroom between the kids and the parents actually has a complete sliding wall out there. So whenever they want, the two rooms can be become together. Kids will be growing over there. So basically now you can see there's a pop of color in the sofa. The bar units actually opens up. The heritage tile had itself created a pattern with the IPS flooring. It's not only a heritage tile which takes care of the entire space. No, there are three types of flooring which actually combines together. The color of those blue, brown, those pop-off colors will add that a nice charm to that space for the kids, for people to come in. So that's the another view for the dining and the kitchen area. The part of the living room actually extends to these spaces because all these spaces have to combine together to view it together. So that is how it should be done. So next is Naked House. It's in Bangalore, completely raw kind of a feel what we wanted. So now this is a completely raw. It's completely different than the first two projects which had a lot of pop of color. It was talking about the family, the kids growing up over there. Now in this, now these are well-traveled people. They are a bit senior that way, and they are again staying in US, and this is their holiday home kind of thing. So it was very important for them is if whenever they're coming, they are not coming for a very long period in this house. They will be coming for a quick couple of weeks kind of a visit for a year, and then they will be going back, and then next year they will be coming again for a week or so. So it is something which they should be basically, it should be an Airbnb worth kind of a thing where they will come, they will enjoy their own space, and then they will travel back to their own space. So experimentation and exploration, we could do a lot since it's not a long span staying, because after sometimes the design starts growing on you, maybe you start becoming a bit monotonous for everyone. But then if it's a short staying space, then obviously exploration and experimentation becomes very important in those kind of spaces. So it was about also celebrating the nakedness of the entire space, minimalistic, muted, stark, and everything coming together for the house. So as you see, what we have planned was the entire flooring actually runs onto the wall. It's all in micro concrete. What we had planned, the ceiling is in lime plaster. So basically, it gives a very monotone kind of a space out there with a couple of woods material playing in that entire space. So this is where basically it's like a holiday. So you're coming over there, you enjoying that space, you are taking you're happy with that entire space, and then you're leaving. But so that is how the entire idea was generated of how to explore a completely naked house in that case. That's the part of the living room where again the furniture is actually carving out from the floor. It's like the flooring itself is creating the TV unit, the kitchen again. So everything is raw in terms of the finishes and everything. And just to add that spunk of space, we have those MS and the fluted glass to add a perfection in that part. So this is completely to represent the client, because they are staying also in the US. They wanted that kind of experimentation to be okay. So now comes is when architects come on. So basically, this is the architect's house itself, what we've done in Mumbai. So it becomes very important. Like the stakes are so very high. Even the first move is very important. Like how you will design, how you will look to an architect's space, because you will already be imagining how an architect house should be, because that is what he is designing for everyone. So basically, it was all about exploring the things which needs to be in terms of design, in terms of colors, in terms of materials. So basically, they had they have a very inspiration from Art Deco, the Great Gatsby kind of film, which is there. So a lot of inspiration you can see in terms of geometry, in terms of Art Deco feels are being seen in the house. There's proper geometric patterns, the bold colors, the artworks. That is what we learn in architecture. So those things were tried to be explored in this space. A personality of an architect is quite vibrant that way. They are quite in terms of in their designs. They have a free flowing form. This is this thing. So basically, that way it represents the architect itself, the bold colors and everything. The artwork and everything was part of the extension of that thing. Okay. So next is Villa by the backwaters. It's in Kochi. So it is just maybe 5 meters away from the backwaters. And so basically it's, as Kochi itself is, it's very rich in heritage. The materials are very local out there. So the entire house was so basically the client is staying in Bangalore since almost last 60 years or so, and now they want to come back to their native land, which is itself is a very rich in terms of heritage and all. So obviously the materials and the palette automatically was sorted out for us, and it's a retired life, so obviously it needs to be a peaceful, it doesn't. So overall, how feel good factor was created in that space for themselves was important. Respecting the local material, the heritage was also very important, because they have been staying in cities since so long. They want to go back to their roots and they want to enjoy the life which they had a lot of years back. So respecting the heritage and the material was very important. But at the same time, obviously, staying in a city, you needed a nice fusion of old and modern. So that was very important part which we wanted to create in this house. So you can see those heritage tiles. So basically, we are not using the muted color heritage tiles. These are the bold, nice blue color heritage tile with the Kota stone. So it's a nice balance of colors as well as the natural material. We have also used laterite stones in the space, lime flute plaster. The fabric itself has a print to itself. So it's a nice blend of what we feel is of modern to the new, creating that kind of a space which is very rich in terms of heritage in Kochi, what we're talking about out here. So this part which leads to their puja, the others is a seating area for themselves. Okay. Kochi, Kent residence again in Kochi, quite similar lines, very similar to itself. So again, a bit of modern, but has a very traditional kind of a design. It's like a fusion again, what we created. But what you saw in the previous slide, this is more towards the modern. So again, because they are staying in Kochi, obviously the local touch has to be there, but they wanted slightly more modern design. So it is, if you can see, it's more towards the modern fusion which has happened out here. Okay, so as we discussed, each house has its own story. You cannot say you are designing one space and that is how you can replicate in other living rooms or other spaces. So it's not about you can just pick one design, you give it to your client. It's not going to happen that way. Each client is going to be different. They have their own set of needs. Their age matters. Their kids are there or not, they matter. Exploring the colors or not the heritage material, all these matters. So if you can see the type of designs which are there, each and every has its own story and why it was done in certain way. And yep, sorry. Yeah. So next is we have picked up a project where we're talking about how the design journey started right from uh, discussing first brief with the client and going it ahead that way. So this is a project which we have taken. It's a secret soil. It's in Bangalore. It's a G+3 residence what we have over there. So again, it's a young family. They have a kid just of 2 years. So this by the time this house gets completed, she will be around 3 years or so. So it's a young family. So automatically exploration, it needs to represent the young family, the young feel good factor also to that. And the most important client will be the 3-year daughter Tamara. What is she is there? She is going to learn in that space. She's going to start walking in that space. A space will represent how she starts. Like she will explore walking over there, learning, all automatically as an adult we can communicate, but a relationship between the child and her space is very critical. So how she will see the colors or the patterns, the everything comes into play now. So this is where the living room part is. So the living room is around 13 by 23 feet. It extends into dining room and then into the kitchen area. So if you can just scroll through, yeah. So this is the living, the dining entry for, and the kitchen. So that is all is the one combined single space. Now, nowadays, that is how we need to view all the spaces together. So this is a part of the living room which we are taking care of today. And this is the kitchen, what is there. Now, what happens is the transition space or whatever we design in the living room and the kitchen is quite important how the transition happens between these two spaces. So the central space which is there is becomes one of the most important element in terms of layouting, at least when you start with the layout, because that is where you will be designing the zoning. So zoning is the living, kitchen and the dining part. So the central space becomes very important. Now, if you just put a square dining table, it becomes one of the elements. But as we had spoken right at the start, you need that one element which will be very unique than the other houses which you have seen. So basically, you visit this house, even after a few months or few years, you will still remember this was something which was not I have not seen somewhere else. This is something. So what we had planned to do is the dining itself becomes the most important element in terms of exploring the design. So we had a very elongated kind of a dining table, which it becomes an island, also becomes a kind of a bar ledge, also becomes a breakfast ledge in the morning. So it was a multi-purpose space for us when we started the designing element of the entire house together. Yeah. So this is how we started off. We came up with the idea where the dining itself converts to a bar and the breakfast ledge, which we'll see more in the 3Ds that way. Yeah, and that was the living room. So living room was quite straightforward because we had huge opening towards the garden area. So the seating arrangement was not much of option because there's a foyer, there's a window. We only had one solid wall at the back, and there was a niche seating. So living room, we also had couple of swings initially, but later on we changed it to a nice bench with a double height space over there. So next part is the designing. So this is a bare shell of that layout, what we had just seen. Completely wide, the double height space in the living room, the dining area, which is out here, the dining space, the kitchen, and this is the living room, what is there. A small foyer area out here. So the important parts were the most important part was the dining table for us that way. And we wanted to have that as the focal point in terms of design also, and if someone is entering the house. So we thought about, let's have it a kind of a style statement out there. We tried to create a single point of contact at the floor, and the entire MS joinery will happen inside to create the dining space. Now that was where we thought about how to create, how to have the dining flowing into a flooring area also. Like the flooring also becomes a very important part of the house. So what we talk about, how a heritage style is, a single heritage style. If you start playing around with it, you can create a nice pattern out of it. And since heritage style colors is completely onto you, the now amount of gray it can add or the darkness it can have. So, so what we thought of is the dining where the location it's touching the point becomes the focal point for also the flooring area. Now this creates a very nice bold geometrical flooring area in the entire space. Talks about the young family and the kid who is gonna be growing up over there. A lot of geometrical pattern and color variation which is happening in this space because of that. So this is how we had thought of creating a kind of a flooring pattern inside the entire space. And it also becomes a very unique element in the house. Whoever will be coming out here becomes the focus element directly because of the pattern as well as the shape of itself. Continue in that space, we also wanted to have a nice connection between the kitchen, the dining, and the living room. So we created a nice designed light element. It's in the rose gold finish. It's like runs through from your kitchen, comes down to your dining, runs to your living room. A bar is hanging from here. So creating that weaving connection between the spaces. Geometry of the entire space will be very important because as we discussed, the kid is going to be growing over there. She will be learning about a lot of shapes and other things. So having those shapes coming up into the screen partition at the back for the staircase, started adding up colors in the sofa and other places. Like instead of white backgrounds, what we can have a wood kind of a niche seating, or the foyer which is like a small space. We can have a wooden enclosures out there, a sofa color which is like bright enough but which can go very well with the flooring. That's why. So this is how it starts coming together: the flooring, the color of the sofa, the color on the wall, the double height space where the geometry was tried to continue out there. Use of white bricks, so a certain variation in the material also. Out here, if you can see the even the staircase is in darker shade to make it a kind of a standout element in the entire house. How the kitchen has the bold colors, which is again the continuation of the living room flooring which we planned, the flow of arches which will continue, patterns. And this is how the entire space comes together, where you have the entrance foyer, the niche, the seating area, the flooring, the colors, the materials. Talks a lot about the young family who is going to be staying over there. Also talks a lot about a kid who's going to grow over there over the next 10, 15 years. So this becomes a very unique design just for them. We cannot expect the same for any other family, or maybe a family who is into their 50s or 60s. Exploration of material, exploration of bold colors, patterns might not happen for them. So it perfectly represents the client what we have out here. The other side where you have the dining out here, which have the bold color in your dining. Not to continue the same overdo of bold colors, we have muted colors for the bar stool, a nice bar hanging out here, and the continuation of kitchen with the brick arches what we have planned. Okay, I think so. Now we can go to the materials what we are also looking, because they're also quite important elements, the material selection what we do.
Okay, so the next point, what we can talk about are the important products which goes into the design, because
it's really important that the products also complement the design. It cannot be completely different to what we design and the products we get in the market. So one of the most important part are the switches, because those will be seen everywhere on the walls until unless you go for an automation. So sometimes the switches play a very important part in the design, and a lot of switches generally come in very few range of colors. So you have white, gray, black, or something like that. But there are a couple of spaces where you can actually really play with the colors also. And specifically for this site where we are using those bold colors, the pastel shades and everything, the switches were also very important. So either you can complement those colors with the switches, or you completely contrast the switches with the colors we are using in our wall. So the switches played a very important role for us in creating the design of the living room or any other room in that case. Next part, what we had was those three huge windows which we were having in the living as well as the kitchen area. In the living, it was a double height window, so it was quite very important. The visual, this thing was maintained, needs to be as big as possible, the window openings, not to have too many divisions in the sliding. Long spans were very important. At the same time, when you have such big window openings, the light which comes in also needs to be very natural that way, and the heat gain and everything also needs to be taken care of. So the windows need to have certain kind of a film where you can cut down the heat which comes in, and at the same time you have those natural sunlight, having that nice play of shade and shadow inside your house. Windows in that way is very important, because you cannot have large openings with sun coming directly in, and then the entire HVAC goes for a toss, or the space starts becoming so very difficult to sit in that area. So windows are secondary important when you talk about the living room and those long big openings. And the third part, what we can talk about is the shoe rack and all the spaces where you don't want to see the hardware or anything. Those the important, the design should be important. The shape and everything has to be very important. All those hardware should be all hidden in those that way. So all these three things are very important when you're designing the living room or any other space that way. And these are the final renders of the entire house together, how the lighting and the color scheme we wanted. SketchUp doesn't give a really realistic view, but then this is what our image of the house is finally. A nice view. Maybe in the SketchUp the flooring was looking a bit dark, but this is how the flooring will actually be made. It is like a lighter shades of white and grays, has a nice brightness to that space, well lit in the morning, in the daytime, evening also. It is a lot of natural light coming in. So it's like a morning nice daylight feel good factor which can create in that space. That's the other side of the view. The dining, the light which is there on the top of the dining, which runs through the entire space. The kitchen, which is in a way the geometrical patterns which we are trying to flow from one place to another. Yeah, and that's the entire space together, what we have done. So as we spoke about the entire presentation, the entire design, every space has its unique story behind it, and that story actually comes from the client. So what the client is, how they live their life entire day, what they want when they're coming back home, that makes it very important. Each space will be different than each other. Every client is different, every story to the design is different, and every design will become different because of the same reason. Okay.
Living room is a space where the entire family comes together. That's where people spend most of the time. It's very important for every individual that their living room looks aesthetically very beautiful. But what also happens is when the entire family is sitting in the living room, you tend to have lots of things lying around. Either kids are playing with toys, there are magazines, there are books. It's always looks very scattered. While designing a living room, people tend to forget that it's important to have some storage also designed in the living room. So when your guest comes or you have somebody visiting you, you can put all these things away. Usually people think of drawer solutions. Nowadays in the Indian market, when people they try to make these drawers, they go for the regular ball bearing channels, which has been the standard in the Indian furniture industry. They are very noisy, they can be seen from the sides, they are not a long-term solution. Hence we recommend to use tandem runner for such solution. It's been one of the oldest runners we have in the Blum range, the most selling one. These are concealed runners. They are made up of nylon rollers. Hence, they add the aesthetics because all you see is the wooden drawer frame. They make no noise and they have inbuilt soft closing too. These runners would be ideal to be used in the living room. If you want to go one step ahead, we have a new range called Movento runners. They have higher load-bearing capacities. They are also concealed and the running motion is very smooth too. Any of these runners would be a perfect solution for living space. They can also be made handleless. You can use one of our technology which is called tip-on blue motion, or you can use servo drive. In that way, no handles will be seen and that gives you more design freedom in the living room space. Now, whether in the living room you want to design a bar or a study table or a shoe rack, we have solutions for all those requirements. The tandem runner and Movento runners can be used under mounted, and these shelves can come out and get locked and stay there when you want to use them with our new technology called pull-out shelf lock. And once you don't need to use it, it can go back behind the cabinet and to the resting place again. If you want to create cabinets too, we have a big range of Aventos lift systems, which will take away the shutter away from the range of movement, and you can create your bookshelves or your study rack or your bar in these cabinets too. In addition to that, we also have a wide range of hinges, which could be used in the traditional cabinet solution. You know, from soft closing to different colors, you have all the options available. It's just amazing that when it comes to designing, its living room space could have so many options. And for designers and architects, I would recommend to visit a website called bluminspiration.com. On this website, we have gathered lots of creative design ideas, not only for living room, but all the other different spaces in a house. And that would be very inspiring. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Garima Saxena from Blaze Design and I'm representing brand Jung, switching in an automation company. It's a German company which has been established around 108 years ago by Mr. Albert Jung. So now to discuss further on the ranges and the product finishes which we have for all the architects and the designers sitting around here. So now when we talk about Jung, what's the first thing which comes into our mind? It's a synchronization. When we are working for any of the project, we may tend to use automation or not. But most of the cases when we are using automation, so there's always a biggest challenge in front of us to find the close make switch or the accessories components so that the synchronized of the design can be maintained. So Jung gives you the free hand of choosing whatever you may like to use in your project. It may be the mechanical switches, the accessories you can think of, and the automation switches, or even the automation panel into the same design, same color, and same frame. Jung is famous for giving something new to the market. Every time when we come up with a new range, we never obsolete our old range. We try to fuse the old with the new so that sanity can be maintained. Coming down to the most famous range of Jung is Alice range. Alice range, as you can see, here been available in duroplastic in the metallic range. The duroplastic, we have ivory color, we have white, light gray and black. And when we talk about white and black, we have both the colors for you. The normal like white and black glossy, which has been available with a number of brands into the market, as well as the matte color. Nobody in the market is giving you the white and the black matte. We do have this, so we are providing you black and white matte in plastic range. Then, as I have shown you there, the range which we have developed for the Indian architects is this A creation range. We have the keypads for the same range also. It's A creation F40 series with a shorter switches and a broader frame, or the plastic colors and the glass frame colors have been available. Then we have again the F50 series here for the plastic and the glass frame ranges are available. So we can provide you here with a 1-gang switch, 2-gang switch, 3-gang switch, again the universal sockets, F40 KNX thermostat, F50 KNX thermostat, RJ11, USB chargers. So whatever the accessories you can think of, likewise if supposing you are using any kind of smart radio, that is also possible in the same color and the same finish. If we are using a temperature controller but without automation, you want an NONC temperature controller, so that is also available with you with the same colors and finish. Then we have the LAN access points here, and here is then the example which I have shown you, that a display unit in between and the function unit on the side of the color. And we have this twin USB chargers here, which is 3A, and we always update according to the Apple. These USB chargers are being updated every year as far as the Apple upgradations. So this switch is again a total metallic switch, and we have all the metal colors here. Dark aluminum, this is classic brass, dark aluminum, chrome and stainless steel. And we have varied types of patterns of the toggles. You can have cylindrical, cone and the cube. Now, if we want a one switch, we can have the one toggle. We want two switches or two kind of functions to need to be operated. We have two switches on the horizontal and two vertical with a space into that. Another style of two horizontal with a broader frame. Then we have four switches vertically or the horizontally. This is another style which we have. So as I told you, this range is our premium range and is available totally into the metallic range.